you guys, welcome to this coping skills lesson. We are going to feature a science experiment called Hot, Hot, Hot. We're going to set some things on fire. And this is all a part of Don't Lose Your Cool, helping you take good care of yourself and make good choices. So we hope you enjoy. Hello. So today we are going to do a counseling guidance lesson that is science-based, and it is called Hot, 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 which should tell you it's going to involve some flame. I'm going to show you everything you need to do this. I would recommend definitely have a grown-up with you if you decide to try this at home. To be sure that it's done safely. But other than that, you're going to get to see it done here in this video as part of this lesson. So through this lesson, you guys are going to be able to describe what anger is, understand that getting angry isn't something that somebody makes you do. Unfortunately, that's a common phrase. You know, somebody made me angry. Well, we're going to talk about that. And then also, most importantly, learn some strategies for calming down so that you are the boss of your angry feelings rather than your angry feelings being the boss of you. Because when they're the boss of you, they tend to get you in trouble. So we will need 2 paper cups. You don't want them to be wax. You want them to be paper. A candle, little tea light works here, and a pair of tongs, and water, both in a bowl for like putting fire out, because we are going to set some things on fire, and then also water in like a little measuring cup, because that'll be important towards the end. So I want you to think for a second about what anger is. If you are at home listening to this on your laptop, you can kind of think out loud. If this is in a guidance class and you're in a Zoom meeting and you can answer out loud, or if you're in little small groups, little breakout rooms. But just for a second, talk about what anger is. And you can, as the person doing the lesson, of course, you can press pause here if you want them to be able to talk for a little bit. And the answer is anger is an emotion. It's a feeling. Well, and who gets angry? And I'm sure everyone's pretty much saying it out loud that the answer is every single person on the planet has moments where they get angry. So the answer is everyone. And I want you to think for a second what causes you to get angry. And I've done this lesson for a number of years, and there'll be a long list of reasons people will give, but ultimately the right answer is yourself. And we're going to explain why. I know most people, when they hear that answer, they're like, what? No, don't worry. We'll explain that. And if you have a minute, if you're in a small group virtually and you want to share, a situation where you've had some angry feelings, or a situation where you reacted in an angry way, at school or at home, you can pause this for a moment and share that. Is there anything wrong with feeling angry? No. Your feelings are your feelings. You can feel any of those emotions, and those are yours to feel. It is okay to feel angry. It's okay to even tell somebody you're angry. You just want to be careful with how you do it, because you want to make the situation better, not worse. So usually using I messages, like, I feel angry when you, like if it's a little brother and sister, go into my room without asking, mess around with all my stuff and I can't find anything. So it's okay, as long as you're being respectful about it, to tell someone you're angry. So I want you to think, and it can go all the way back to when you were teeny weeny little. Have you ever gotten in trouble for doing something because you were angry? And you can share that with your small group if you want. When we express our anger in inappropriate ways, we can get into trouble, we can hurt somebody else, we can lose friends. Some of the damage can be done to us. People don't trust us anymore. So we obviously want to get a handle on that. So here's how we're going to do an example of how anger management works. So I'm going to take an empty cup, and I'm going to hold it over the fire, and I want you guys to talk about what do you think is going to happen with this fire. I don't know if you can see it. I'm trying to angle it towards the camera, but it is starting to scorch, and it is in fact catching on fire. The cup burns like what happens when we let our anger get out of control and we say something we don't mean or will regret later. We end up in the principal's office. There's all kinds of not good effects to that happening. So what we're going to do instead is brainstorm some anger management techniques and are some coping skills. Some of these are things that you do at home just to kind of keep yourself feeling okay, and some are things you can do in the moment. So one of the things you can do in the moment is take 3 deep breaths. Another thing you can do if someone is making a choice that you do not like, you can walk away from them. You can go talk to a teacher about it, a grown-up you trust, and kind of process it and figure out what's going on. And you can also, if you have the chance, go exercise, go burn off some of those angry feelings. Now, I'm going to hold this cup over that fire again, and I want you guys to take a second and pause the video if you need to. What do you think is going to happen? This is still a paper cup. That is still a flame. The only difference is we've got our coping skills of water poured into this. So I'm going to carefully hold it over the fire. And sometimes it might scorch a little bit, but you'll notice it is not catching on fire. The flame's not jumping up towards it or anything. The reason it's doing that is because the water inside the cup is actually preventing the flame from catching on the paper bottom part. So it is the water that makes the difference for that. So if we were to set up a stand, like in a science lab, where the cup could just be held over this flame, it's more likely that this flame would die down and go out and burn out because it would run out of wax before this water would evaporate or boil away. So when you use your coping skills to not get angry with somebody, it's the difference between having that kind of a day and this kind of a day. So I hope that you will take the time to practice some anger management when you feel upset, some coping skills. And I hope also as well, when you are listening to this, you realize that nobody makes you angry. No one is in control of you. You are in control of your choices. So maybe someone does a behavior that you don't like. You choose to be angry, but that person doesn't make you angry. It's a choice. Now, I will tell you, I've had some students ask me, well, what about when, someone tries to embarrass me in front of everyone, they call me, ugly names, and they're really trying hard to just make me feel awful, and I kind of get shaky, and I can feel my heart beat faster. I don't feel like I'm choosing that. Well, you're right. That is an anger. That is a fight or flight response, and that's our body trying to determine if that behavior from that person, that stress, is going to cause like a life or death emergency for us. So that's why, briefly, when your brain is taking in information like what someone's saying, their tone of voice, their body posture, your brain is collecting all that information. The first stop in your brain is at the base of the brainstem. It's called the primitive brain because it's in charge of just a couple of things, and it's like breathing and sleeping and fight or flight. So if you think of your nerves in your body being like a train system, and as it collects all this information from this stressful situation in front of you, the first train station that it stops at is the primitive brain, because it's got to decide, is this an emergency? Is it not? What's going on? The good news is the next stop after that is the front part of your brain, where all your good choices are made, where you can reason and calm yourself down. So if you had to guess, how many seconds do you think it takes for the information to go from the primitive part of the brain to the front part of your brain where your good choices are? You can talk with a neighbor, you can say it out loud, your small group in your virtual room. It is 10 seconds. That's it, 10 seconds to go from the primitive brain that's trying to figure out if this is a real emergency or not, to the frontal lobe, which can make some good choices. So I don't know if you've ever noticed from the time you were little, if someone said, take 3 deep breaths or count to 10, all of that takes about 10 seconds. And that's part of the reason why those short little coping skills that you can use instantly in the moment, they're trying to buy you that time so that your information can go from that primitive brain that just wants to fight or run away to the frontal lobe, which can be like, hey, I got some coping skills. This isn't an emergency. I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to go find a teacher and let them know what's going on, just to, talk through some of this stress because I didn't like what happened. One of my dearest friends growing up had an event happen in her family with her cousins. And it was the older cousin's quinceañera. And it was like the morning of, and all the aunties, everybody was in the house helping her with her makeup, her hair, getting dressed. Her littlest sister had come into the kitchen and was wanting help getting something to drink because she was too little. There was like a huge jug of this red sugary drink, like Kool-Aid, but it was too big for her to get. And she kept asking, her mom for help, her aunties for help, and everyone was too busy helping with big sister. So because no one was paying her any attention, she walked over to the fridge, got that big jug, hauled it, slopping it across the floor, and chunked it at her oldest sister, who was in her quinceañera dress, full makeup and hair. So you can imagine the oldest cousin's gut reflex probably would have been a pretty significant fight reflex, that primitive part of the brain that just wants to react. Luckily, we had all had Northside counselors, and she knew that she just needed to get up and walk into the other room and breathe. And she even started to cry a little bit just to get some of that out. Luckily, the army of aunties knew exactly what to do and how to get the stain out, and they redid her hair and her makeup, and it actually ended up being okay. But I'll never forget that story of red Kool-Aid being flung onto a quinceañera desk the day of, but she didn't let the fight or flight part of her brain determine what she was going to do. She walked away, she took those deep breaths, so that she could let the grown-ups handle the little sister and then still have the day that was important to her. So I hope you like this lesson, and I hope you'll remember to use your coping skills to help you feel better when you're having a rough day.